because it's hell going through divorce. You feel like you're alone, and you're not. You're absolutely not. This is a safe space. I want men and women to watch the show, married people, divorcees, single people. I want everyone to watch the show. We all have challenges in relationships, and sometimes you just need a safe space. You need to hear that someone else has gone through something so you can get through what you're going through. Hi, this is Sharon Moman, author of Pardon, the Courage to be Set Free. Welcome to the Pardon Me series. Hi, Tara.
I just love that episode, that intro. I love it.
I love it too. Great job.
I just think that it just really you shine. The fact that you are willing to share your past journey, and we see where you are today. That's what this is all about. This is about
God is good. God is good.
Meeting the author and finding out like what's next. Well, we are on episode 4. Yep. We done talked about Warden 1, talked about Warden 2, talked about Warden 3. And how do you feel so far?
I feel great. Oh, I feel inspired even more. I feel what I knew I would feel as God spoke to me about the Pardon Me series about go further. This is not it. This is not final. And I was like, okay. And now I understand. He gives you a word, and when it starts coming to pass, you understand why you receive what you receive.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at the background. I see the books in the back. Like you got a model.
I'm trying to figure out which way to turn. Yes. I set my books up today.
Yeah, I love it. That looks so good. I appreciate you doing all of that. And to think about it,
the series end, I'll be putting my popcorn machine and blender back over there.
The thing about your book, I was looking at some of your reviews, and even men are basically being helped by this book as well. Can you speak to that?
Oh, yes. I was a little afraid of men not taking it well because some people think that you group everyone together. And just because I talk about my experiences with my ex-husbands, it doesn't mean that everyone has a bad ex-husband or a bad experience. I should say bad ex-husband, a experience in marriage. And so when your dad reviewed it and he was, he gave me this awesome review. Another friend of mine reviewed and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna call you." And I just thought, "Oh my God." And it was just a great review. And I was like, the guy at church said, "I want to buy your book." And I was like, "Okay." And he bought it. And the next week he came and sat beside me. He said, "Thank you." He said, "I had
Wow.
experiences too." People forget men get cheated on too.
Mm.
People forget men get dogged out too. People forget that. And they need healing like we do, because we're all damaged, and it's like, so I'm just grateful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just grateful I followed and did what the Lord told me to do.
Yeah. And even if it's not those who were cheated on, those who cheated could actually,
Yes.
yeah.
That's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna spill the tea because I could have wrote a whole lot of stuff, but I wasn't like in spill the tea mode. My assignment was to help people. And I always say, I say several times, this is not a divorce manual. This is not urging people to get divorced. This is urging people to have a better life.
Mm.
And that's what we want from it.
Absolutely. And that's what's happening. So yeah, I appreciate
Yes.
you on that.
Yes.
Good job, author Sharon Moman. So proud of you. So proud of you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So
Thank you.
we're going to dive deep into some things that you said in your book. And I want to read kind of like a lengthy passage that you kind of really describe some things. So bear with me, and we're gonna go through this. Look at you. You're ready. Wait a minute. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
No, you read it. You read it. Because you may want to pause for me to answer something. So no, you read. I'm gonna read along with you.
Okay, so we're gonna start at page 76. Toward the middle, you said, all of the mistakes I've had in my life are totally on me, but there are influencing factors: culture, family, church, and the community. All these factors encourage you to trust, forgive, and help. So that is what you do. You trust when you shouldn't. You forgive and stay instead of forgiving and leaving. You continue to help them while no appreciation is afforded, and there is no equal distribution of help. I hope that by sharing my stories with you in this book, you get a quicker sense of when to say no and goodbye to people who do not have your best interests in mind. And judging to see if you should stay or go, just ask yourself, does this person treat me like a person, or do they treat me like an opportunity? One of your answers is in that question. Okay, I do want to pause. You're right.
So on the last episode, you were asking me to maybe give some standards to some people, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't really like to give people advice and and such. I like to tell my experience and say, now, what do you get from that? But I went ahead and wrote 7 things down that this pardon Sharon would apply to the interviewing process of another prospect that may be coming down the road. So,
Okay,
I would
Sharon.
tell people, I would tell anybody, remember, you are ever evolving. You are not going to be the same person in 5, 10, or 20 years from now.
That's right.
So it's other persons. So don't expect people to stay the same. 2, you don't have to be loyal to mistakes. Okay.
AKA party.
Number 3, always have PTO. Now at work, that's paid time off. But I heard someone on TikTok say PTO means prepare the others. And to me, that means you don't have to do it all. A lot of times the person in the relationships who given 90% think they got to do it all. No, split it up.
Yeah.
70-30, sometimes 50-50, sometimes. Then Teddy Pendergrass write a song about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Balance it out. And it's not going to be 50-50 all the time. It's going to be different on different days. Okay. 4, know the difference between helping and being used. Number 5, don't agree to the teach me how to love you. You're talking about grown people. You don't need to teach nobody how to love nobody. If they ain't learned when they were little, they ain't gonna learn when they're grown. I'm just gonna tell you. You cannot teach anybody how to love.
Yeah.
That's organically, right? But I've heard that before and I kind of fell for it. All right. Number 6, don't wait for him or her to leave. And the reason I say that is when I left on my own terms with 1 and 2. Number 3, even though I filed a divorce, it was because God had created a situation and I was forced to leave. I didn't leave on my own accord like I had wanted to several times before. And when you don't leave on your own accord, bitterness set in because you remember when you should have left.
Real talk.
Yeah, right. So, and number 7, evaluate what you are eating and drinking. This affects your spiritual and physical being.
Absolutely.
So, talk plenty of times about this in the latter part of the book about be aware of what you're putting in your body. Your body, your body acts differently to all kind of situations. And with my first ex-husband, when I was going through, my hair fell out. My hairdresser said, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Bald spots up here. Wow. I didn't even know.
Stress.
Yeah. Stress. Second one, having irregular periods. Stress.
Yep.
The third one, I just started drinking.
Yeah. Let's
You
talk
know?
about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
you mentioned that in the book how like particularly even in uh chapter 1, you mentioned a little bit about how that became like a habit.
Mhm. And it wasn't good for me. It in what was supposed to be a celebration ritual, uh, it had turned into something else. And God was not pleased with that. You know, we can have whatever we want, but if we abuse the privilege, and that's why I don't drink anymore because I abuse my privileges. And when it's time to do it again and to celebrate, perhaps I will. But I had for a time period, I had abused my privileges with that. So God took it away, and I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, you ready? We're gonna keep
Yes.
going. So we're about to dive deep into a situation that happened, and before I even read, like I was just so proud of you for sharing it. It was just very vulnerable of you. Like I was like, wow. All right, here we go. The only incident of physical abuse happened at our previous home. It happened less than a year of being married to him. I could not believe that I was married to someone who was belligerent and engaged in such reckless behavior of pounding on the countertops or punching the walls during arguments. After yet another one of his episodes, I threatened him with divorce. I was serious this time. I was tired of my boys seeing his outrageous behavior and covering yet another spot on the wall with artwork to cover up the hole that he punched. You must take these abusive bullies serious. I didn't. I am by nature a fighter. I grew up with 3 older brothers, so I don't back down from fights. My mistake was that instead of engaging with this person in these verbal fights, I should have been strategically planning my pardon like I did with Warden 1. You can't tell someone who is enraged with anger that you are leaving them. No, you got to do it quietly, and you'll end up with a punch in the back of the head like me. I was lucky. Yes, I was lucky because some women are not here to tell their story. They are dead. Death from domestic abuse is real. You never think it can happen to you until it does. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence website has alarming statistics. Please read and share with any family member you believe to be experiencing any form of abuse. As I walked away from him to head up the stairs of my condo, he hit me in the back of my head. He hit me so hard that it knocked me out. I don't know how long I was out, but I do remember seeing my deceased grandmother in a vision. It was not my time to go. When I came to, he was kneeling next to me, telling me that he'll call an ambulance, the police, my mom, his mom, my brother at the church, and the church, I'm sorry. As I tried to regain consciousness, I realized what had happened. My eyes immediately scrolled to my boys who were in the room and saw it all. The guilt still haunts me that I can never erase that memory from their head. From their head hurts me the most. The next target of my eye was the kitchen where the knives were. Every bit of rage rose up in me as I tried to get up and grab a knife. Today, he was going to meet his maker. He held me down to talk some sense in me. He knew what I wanted to do. He saw my eyes. He said the police were on their way so that there would be no need to hurt him. That's the thing about bullies. They don't fight fair. He was a coward. Only cowards sucker punch individuals as they are walking away. Never turn your back on someone you're verbally fighting with. Always exit the area walking backwards. I will be diagnosed with a concussion that will plague me with short-term and long-term memory loss.
What am I 2 words? 4 words. It's gonna cost you.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
First of all, how did you feel hearing that read back?
The part about my boys,
Still haunts you today.
yeah, yeah, because no one, because you can't erase that. You can't erase it. It's there, and thank God that they're okay, and they're fine. But I mean, they're they're good boys, and we're men now. But that's just something. And I guess it's like I said in the last episode, is a smart person, and I brought this person into my home
Yeah.
thinking that he would be a good influence on my boys. And so you thinking one thing and then something else happened. It's trauma, you know, it's
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but let me straighten my face up because my boys wouldn't want me to be here crying.
Yeah, that was really deep though when you talked about when you opened your eyes and you saw your boys. But you mentioned in your book this was the only experience. Was that what even more made you say, no more? Thinking about your boys?
Yeah. Now, when I say only, yeah, that was the only experience because I mean, after that happened, I don't think he slept right. I mean, I would wake up and he would just be up, or lightly sleeping, get up and go to the bathroom, and he's looking around. You know what I'm saying? So
Before that story, you said, all of my mistakes I've had in my life are totally on me, but there are influencing factors: culture, family, church, and community. So I want to talk about that. Those
okay,
influencing factors that cause you to make the mistakes that you've named in the book and said on your shows. Let's start with culture. The first
okay,
thing I think about when I think of culture, I really think, particularly, we talked about this before off camera, but the pretty girl syndrome, the colorism in the African American community. Did you have any experience with that? And if so, how did it affect you?
I mean, as far as there are stigmas for every group: dark skin, light skin, thin, big. And so for me as a light skinned girl, I was, thought of as being stuck up,
Mm.
or, the B word, or unapproachable, those kind of things. But, I just remember when I was young just saying, just get to know me, you know, and that's the way I looked at that as far as the color difference. I have a sister who's a shade darker than I am, and sometimes she felt some type of way about, you know, me being lighter and stuff like that, and getting more attention. But I was the baby. So I think my baby status got me more attention. I don't think it was my color, but some people are color struck. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So, how did men treat you? How did that feel? Did they mention that? Did that play a part in the mindset of how you saw yourself?
Not really. I mean, everybody has their preference. I still remember one night at the club, this guy was chatting with me, and then he just said, "Oh, you're all right." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And he was like, "Well, I thought, you were mean." And I'm like, "Why would you say that? You don't even know me." And he was like, "Because you're a light-skinned girl." So you just don't know how people just view you until they actually say it. So I really never bought into, don't play with that girl because she's this, or don't play. I just loved everybody. And so as far as like men, I don't know how they felt unless they just kind of told me.
Mhm. So we know that you were a nice person. You loved everybody, but did you feel from the culture any type of hatred or dislike or anything like that? Did you see yourself as, um, well, I guess I have to just find my like in people who like me because of maybe how you were treated?
I think that um I just try to be I think for me in school, uh, when I went to school, it wasn't more so what shade you were, it was more so the class you were in.
Oh, wow.
So we grew up poor. We were poor. So I got free lunch. There were people who didn't get free lunch, and they were middle class. They had Jordache jeans and stuff like that. So you know those were those were things that I felt. That part of the culture,
Okay.
just not feeling, like I fit in, with that particular class.
Got it. Got it. Got it. What about
Mhm.
family? How did family play a role? I know we mentioned this a little bit in one of the episodes with your family, but how did your family play a role in how you saw relationships at a young age in marriage?
Well, my grandmother was married, and my grandfather died, and so I saw them living together. But I think I was maybe 7 when he died, so I got a little bit to see that. I never saw my mom and dad together; they were separated, but there was just issues with that. And I always had an uncle, and my dad said, "He ain't your uncle," so so that was kind of weird. But I didn't. I saw other people who were married, and I always just and what I saw on TV as far as like marriage, the house, the picket fence, that was my definition of marriage. And then I met my mentor, Miss Patsy, and she was married, and she had a good marriage. And so I aspire to have, a home, a husband, a child, all those things that is that comes into the steps of your life. So that's
Yeah.
all I saw there. But now let me tell you this. I was just one day I was just thinking about my uncles and my aunts, and I was like, they all have different names. And I said, oh my God, my grandmother's been married 3 times.
Oh,
Now
wow.
one would look at me and judge and say, well, that's your problem. It's generational curses. But that's judging, because you don't know why my grandmother was married. You don't know if somebody died. You don't know if one of the husband had several wives in another state, which was one of the cases. You don't know, why this person was married 3 times. So I thought about that, and I did kind of tease myself, that is your problem. But then it's like, no, I know it's not. That's what the devil wants you to think. Your problem is you
Yeah.
making some decisions that are not sustainable for what your purpose is that God has assigned you. That's what your problem is.
Yeah. 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 It's not what someone else experiences, it will be my experience. It's the decisions that I make. I like how you just said that. So yeah.
Right. And I even looked up the word influence, and it said the power or capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone. So again, that word power keeps coming into play. Remember, we've talked about that. A person should have power and authority. They should know their power and authority. And so when you got family or culture or church or anybody else that provides influence, they have that power in the capacity, but it's up to you what you absorb and what like you can read me 2 books, and I can absorb one of those books. You know what I'm saying? I can
Mhm.
absorb only part of what you're telling me. And so that's the same thing with anyone that's around us that influences us. They influence, but they don't create us. We're already created, and we have to make decisions on, okay, I'll take that part with me, but I'm gonna leave that on the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, what about church? Like I know you were saved at a young age, you went to church, but how did church influence your decisions in marriage or seeing men?
It 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 was a good influence. Had great pastor. My first pastor, what is his name? Cornelius, Emmett Cornelius, and then Bishop Crudup. So some great teachings regarding marriage. But because of my sin, I stayed away from the church after I started living, a carnal life. First this is what I was looking at with myself. I became a backslider when I decided to start having premarital sex, right? So I stayed away from church.
Mm.
When me and the warden finally got married, then we went back to church, but I had so much of that backslider stuff in me, and I was trying to get the word back in me, the way to continue to develop me, but I had picked up some habits, and then I existed as a carnal Christian,
Mm.
right? Then things happened again in my life, and I ran from God again, which is the wrong thing to do. And I became the prodigal daughter.
Mhm.
So, backslider, carnal, prodigal. And it's all slipping away from God and away from in the instructions to help you make better decisions. What do I do with my Bible? I left it over there. But anyway, but when you that's what happens when things develop in your life that are not so great. Either they're going to get worse or better. And getting better is seeking God and participating in fellowship at church and so forth. Church is not perfect. There are
Right.
no perfect people in
Right.
there, but you're not going in there to see them. So, you have some people to say, "Oh, divorce is not an option.
Mhm.
You got to stay together forever and ever and ever." And here's what I have to say about that. And I wrote about it in the book. God gives man authority and power, right? They do not have the power to abuse us, and they do not have the authority to have multiple affairs. Okay? Point blank. They just do not have it. So you have some people to say, well, I'll get me a little church girl and she'll never divorce me. I think that's what Warden 3 thought, even though, I didn't go to church all the time. I really think that he thought, okay, well, she ain't gonna divorce me. And probably the other ones too. She go to church. We go to church. She's not
Mhm.
gonna do it. You
Mhm.
know, but one day.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. So, okay, did culture, I mean, did church affect you when it came to, particularly your first divorce? You're thinking of, you know, I shouldn't divorce because the church said.
Yeah, I was scared to divorce. I really was. And I was like, things are just not going to change. And I don't even know where I got the courage to do it, to go see a lawyer. I still don't, when I think about it now, I still don't know what happened to trigger me to go and do it at that particular time. I just know that I don't, I think maybe I called this job and I had been begging him to go to the day shift and quit the night. That would help alleviate what's in my mind of him slipping away at night going to do something. And I think I remember calling and they said he had left already, and and that person didn't have the instructions to lie like some of them did for the cover for those guys. And he's like, oh, he's been gone a couple of hours. And I was like, oh, okay, it's 7:30. He made it home yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what I was trying to remember. I was like, well, what triggered me to go ahead and do it at that particular point? So I
That
think that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And then he never wanted to buy a house. He never wanted to buy a house. And I was like, and that, to me that says you don't want to put down any roots with me, because so are you planning to leave me one day?
Mhm.
You know, you have to read the room, baby.
Right, right,
You
right.
got you have to read the room. So yes, I really was. We had started going to church and had a nice little routine, and I really was kind of scared to get a divorce. Yeah, I really was, because you don't get a divorce. You stay married.
What about your community? Did you have a non-judgmental circle or a judgmental circle? How about your community? Who you around at the time?
Well, my siblings and my mom, everyone in my family, they support decisions. And you make a decision, your family kind of stand behind you. So that
Mhm.
was my immediate community. When you think about beyond that, your job and other, friends and stuff, then they do kind of look at you strange, like, caught a disease or something, like, ooh, how are you going to survive? And maybe you shouldn't have got a divorce, girl. You got those two babies. And the sometimes the community is not very encouraging. Instead of saying that, they could have said, well, if you need some help, if you need a babysitter, if you need this, let me know, and I'll help you out. and it got hard. The babysitters that I did have, sometimes they were not available. So, you know, when that village that's supposed to help you raise is not present, it does make it hard for some women to say, "I'm gonna stay." I'm not gonna get a divorce because I'm not gonna have any help if I get out of this. At least he's my babysitter, you know.
That's real. That's like still to this day. I was thinking about that with warding too. You mentioned how those influencing factors cause you to make certain decisions or think a certain way. Would you say it was your family though? Was it your community? Was it your church that gave you the strength to also leave to pardon yourself with Warren too?
Oh yeah, yeah. My mom is a strong woman, and and you know, I don't think that everybody at church judge you. There are a few, but most of the people give you a hug. And I still remember after Warden 2 was arrested and it was on the news. And the next time I went to church, there were women who came up to me and said, "You let me know if you need anything." And I'm like, "Oh snap, the crew coming."
Oh, nice.
So yeah, yes, I don't say that in the book, but yeah, I do remember that. You have one group here who's like, you know, we're gonna get them. You just let us know where, and we'll take care of the problem. And then you have the other ones over here, girl, don't go nowhere. It's gonna get better, So you just kind of like you go. It's like a tennis match.
Yeah. Wow. That's deep. That's really deep.
Hmm.
I want to ask you this on behalf of one of a conversation I had. I'm always having conversations about things, right? And we talked about the book and your experiences, and she mentioned how uh, um, this particular for this particular episode dealing with exactly the passage that we read. He was belligerent. He punched the walls. She mentioned he never hit her, but that's exactly what he does. He throws things. If he's not punching a wall, it's more so the throwing and the screaming and the hollering. And she said, but he's willing to get help. The question was, if he's willing to get help, if he's seeing his anger, but yet it's still kind of continuing, do you suggest her next step should be? I know and there's no right or wrong answer and there's no A,
Right, right.
but can an abuser change their ways?
I haven't met every single one, so I don't know. But I know that some behaviors graduate, and then some people will take advantage of your grace that you give them, and they will see it as an opportunity, right? And therefore seeing you as an opportunity. Here's what Warden 2 did. I gave him second chance, right? After that, I still stayed with him. Got pregnant, getting ready to have a baby. While I'm 8 months pregnant, where I never forget this scene. We left church and we were at the Burger King, and he decides to tell me that he's going to start going over to one of his buddies' house on Sundays to watch football game. Well, I'm a football girl. Who am I gonna watch if you leave? We watch football. He start acting like Warden One, wanna go leave somewhere. And plus, I had bought him that big TV, that stands like this high, like a dresser, for Father's Day the previous year. So he's basically trying to let me know what his next move is gonna be. And I'm like, I just sat there with the burger bag in my hand. And by the time we pulled up to the driveway, I said, "Hey, that's perfectly fine with me." I said, "But when I drop this baby, I'm going to go start playing volleyball every other weekend. You can go on your weekend to your friend's house. But when I had this baby, I'm going to go on my weekend and have my fun with my friends that I used to hang out with." He never went. Their conversation never came up again. But you see what I'm saying? went from forgiveness, working things out, being a praying wife, going to church, supporting, to and having a baby, taking that chance to, oh, I'm gonna do this. So he's here, and it starts going here. He's gonna try something. He's gonna try something else. And gonna try something else. So it eventually gets back to the yelling. You
Mm,
know, and that's how a different scene comes up in the story again. That's how it got on the news.
mm.
So I don't know what to tell her. All I can tell her is that she knows better than anything she's telling you. Because we're not going to tell it all. We're going to protect them. So we're going to make it pretty when we
Wow.
tell our story. We're going to make it real pretty, so you won't think so bad of them.
Yeah.
So my thing is, she need to go with whatever her spirit man is telling her. If
Yeah.
Because we, like, again, you don't have to be loyal to your mistakes.
Right. Ooh, that part. You don't have to be. That's what that means, right?
Yeah,
That's what that means.
yeah, yeah, and that's what we think. Like I write in the book, where we think, oh, okay, I've been with him 5 years. I'm just gonna throw that away. Yes, throw it away. I got clothes now. I throw away. I don't need them anymore. You
Yeah.
know. So
So
yes,
this was like a group thing of like people who are in need of help. So I connected her to another young lady who actually had been in that situation. He never hit her, but he was physical, just verbal abusive, and did the same thing, kind of like through things. She ended up leaving the marriage and just found so much peace and happiness because, as you stated, it just either digressed at one moment, but it came back up. It was like triggers. Like, unless you are
hmm
constantly in counseling together, unless you are, I'm not a domestic violence counselor. I don't have experience in domestic violence, so I don't know. But I remember her story, so I just made sure that they connected. And her testimony was she just had to find the strength to love herself.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
love how you're saying you don't have to be loyal to mistakes. That's you seeing what's happening now and being real with yourself and freeing yourself. So I really appreciate how you're saying that.
Right.
Don't,
And you have to say to yourself, how much time do you give? And like before, you're gonna kick that can down the road. If you say you're gonna give that probationary period, if you will, is 6 months, then it's 6 months. If things are not where they should, if the needle is not where it should be in 6 months, you move on. You don't say, okay, well, the needle moved a little bit. No, if the needle is not where it's supposed to be in 6 months, it's not going to be there in a year.
yeah.
So it will. And here's the thing: there are two reasons that I think that Wharton two didn't try anything else. One, he had been arrested twice, right? He had been arrested once for the actual act, and then another time for um, the neighbors uh, heard us arguing and called the police, right? So 3 strikes, you're out. So he wasn't gonna try it again. But he was gonna make my life miserable, not being able to sleep at night. You know what I'm saying? Making it uncomfortable for me to stay in the house. Don't want to go home. She gets to the point where she doesn't want to go home. I mean, when we get off work, we rush home and we're ready to snap our bra. If you don't feel that way, something wrong. You know what I'm saying? If you don't feel like, oh, I can't wait to get home, because that's where, home is, what we say, home is where the heart is. If you don't feel that way, that's
Then
your answer.
yeah.
That's that's your
You
answer.
mentioned in the book, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Did you in any way reach out to them or have connections or just
Girl, I was on the news. I ain't need to reach out. Everybody was reaching out to me. This face
Wow.
What's the poster girl of stand by your man. That's one thing I heard, and for abuse and stuff like that. And girl, thank God that the reproach is gone. And I remember Bishop and First Lady praying over us as a couple, and I received what God said, that that's gone. Because it was a shameful moment, but I know I didn't do anything wrong. I know I didn't cause anything. But a lot of women, they would think that they caused it, and they may carry it. I was like, try something, you know.
Yeah,
So
when I was reading that part in the book, I was just so engaged. Like, if you told the story as if we were watching the news, if we were like, we saw the before, the after, like you gave us the behind the scenes of actually what happened, because those who probably remember just that. But you literally
yeah,
painted that picture very clearly. Wow. And I felt the shame. I felt, how
right.
kind of like the way you described it.
Right.
That was
And I
deep.
didn't stay because I was scared. Like some women, they stay because they're scared to leave. I didn't stay because I was scared. I stayed because I didn't want to get another divorce. I was trying to stay there to help him. All these wrong reasons. And it cost me.
Whew,
It cost me.
whew.
But God is good. God is good. He can take anything, and use it for His good.
I think episode 4, it cost me.
Yes, yes.
I hope we'll
I
time.
thought of, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, listen.
I like to talk about, accountability, and we all are walking mistakes, and because anything can happen at any time. Anybody can say, "Oh, that never happened to me. I never let that happen." Next thing you know, you with Mr. Feel Good, look good, all this stuff, and then he is perfect, and then one day it's different. And so never judge and say, "Oh, that'll never be me." We always can say that, but we never know when a test is going to come. And my thing is, like I say, let's say a doctor who makes a mistake doing surgery, right? He has two choices. God is not going to make that choice for him. The Holy Spirit is going to nudge him to do the right thing. But if he is up to him to follow through, right? So this is, I'm talking about our choices, accountability. If he does what is right, say what he did and own it, it's counted as righteousness, right? But if he doesn't do it, and that person develops complication and dies, that act becomes evil because he knew what could happen, but not telling the truth, he allowed death to arrive. I allowed death to arrive in my life
Mm.
in so many different ways. And sin is death. I allowed that to come into my life in so many different ways because I did not speak up and say things. I would tell any woman out there, speak up. Speak up. Don't be loyal to stuff and to people, because they ain't gonna be loyal to you. Be loyal to God, and He will give you direction. I can tell you all day, do this step, but only you know what you should do. But just don't bring death into your life. And I mean it figuratively, but it could be literally, you know. And again, as I stated, I was tired of writing my story. When I was putting it together, I was like, oh, did I really experience this? Did I really walk this life? I was part shame, part mad at myself, and I would come in and turn the TV on, and there would be another missing woman, and her husband telling the news that he doesn't know where his wife is, and he has killed her. So you know, I I want lives to be saved. I want relationships to heal, and I want people to understand that you can pardon yourself, and it's never too late to fix yourself or the other person, get fixed, and return to God, return to your first love, so that He can say, "Hey, I got you." And that's all it is. We think that we can't make it on our own, or we can't do this on our own. God has you.
Yeah, that's so good. That is so good. As we close, I want to say kudos. That was really, really good. God has you. Please, God, in this. So I honor you again for sharing your truth, for being very transparent with us. And we will see you on episode 5 next week as we get ready to keep changing the world with your book. Thank you, author
Yes.
Sharon.
Thank you, Miss Chara, the producer.
Bye.